Young, and we didn't want to be exposed. Even though it was cold, we were never wearing proper clothes. Always trying to be cool, trying to be those bad guys, smoking cigarettes behind the school. Always trying to be cool, trying to be those bad guys, you know. Young, still didn't wanna be exposed. What we had when we were younger, we were never running out of time. As long as we had each other, everything was black and white. Driving in a car, never knowing how far we go. When we were younger, when we were younger, I remember a girl. I would sneak into her parents' house. I could stay for hours, and we looked into each other's eyes. Hey, I thought I was Romeo, I was looking for my Juliet. And as soon as I left, I told my friends. Those days made me who I am. When we were younger, we were never running out of time. As long as we had each other, everything was black and white. Driving in a car, never knowing how far we go. When we were younger, oh, when we were younger. When we were younger, we were never running out of time. As long as we had each other, everything was black and white. When we were younger.
Well, there we go with a selection of wedding images. Let me move this over. G'day everyone, welcome back to the show. Let me just quit this so we all have that out the way. So, I noticed Robbie said don't do question time. I always have to do question time, Robbie, at the beginning because people just don't know we're live straight away. So I give time for people to see that it's live. Because of stupid YouTube, it just doesn't notify a lot of people. So I always give a little bit of time there to get people in and know that we're live. So welcome everyone. And yes, David said, are you in lockdown again? Yes, we are. We've got a 5-day full lockdown. I think we've got, I don't know, I think it was 18 cases or something now. They're all people that have come back into Australia from hotel quarantine, but somehow one of them got out and it hasn't spread anywhere outside of that, but they're just doing it in case. So we're in a 5-day lockdown, which means no one in the whole of Victoria can go out apart from go to get food shopping, basically. Over the next 5 days, my weddings start in 2 weeks' time. If this costs me weddings again, like we've had a year where I haven't done any weddings or earned no money. If they do this to me again, honestly, oh my God. The poor bride that I've got for next Friday week, she's cancelled her wedding. Well, she hasn't cancelled it, but she's had it postponed twice because of these stupid lockdowns. And now it might happen again. We're 2 weeks away from her wedding and it can happen again. So, honestly, I'm just completely over it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get pissed. I'm going to drink what this is. So this is a vodka teaser, and this is the Fruit Tingler. that I'm going to start on now. And if I finish this, I might actually get stuck on also the Coronas, but here we go. So we can all get pissed together because, honestly, oh, gee, this is hard to get off these. It's probably a twist one. Let me taste this because I've never tasted this one. Not bad at all. Why is it out of focus? Oh, is it gone on the bottle? Hang on. Let me just see. I think it's focused on the bottle, I think. I'm just checking over on that other thing over there because it looks all right on my thing. Yeah, it's just the bottle it's gone on. So let's see who's here. Why we all get drunk together. Let's check on here. Oh, yeah, it's still a little bit out there. That's weird. I'm just checking on there. Is it going to come back on focus on me? Don't know. Or is it getting on that? I think it's not bad now. Yeah, I think so. Funny thing is it looks perfect over there, but it's YouTube. Perhaps YouTube's doing something a bit funny. I don't know. Let me come back and see who's here. So Michael was here saying first. The Jaded Filmmaker's also here. G'day, buddy. Can't really talk about the FX3. There's no stats yet. Well, we're going to talk about the rumours that are sort of out there, but I will say if it doesn't have a built-in ND, then there's no point at all, unless sensor tech has already improved since the A7S3. It's an interesting camera, though. I'm going to talk about that in the first story today, so stay tuned for that. Harry's here. Robbie is also here. Don't question, just start the show. That's what I was saying. He always says that. I have to give people time enough to get in, Robbie. John said, let's get into this. Robbie said, do them at the end. Hero said, woo, time for some bubbly. Well, it's almost bubbly this morning. David said, are you in lockdown? Yeah, another lockdown. It's unbelievable. We have that many cases in the whole of Victoria's lockdown, and you look at the number of cases overseas and you just think, you've got to be kidding me. What do you do? Let me switch back over so you can see the questions too. These are dramatic ASF. Are you talking about the photos or what? They're all my wedding photos that I looked at, so it's just a collection of different wedding photos. Chris said, hello, David. Cool windy day in Los Angeles, but a good Miller Lite day. Nice photos. Thanks, Chris. Jeff said, where were we? Oops. I think, yeah, we're down here. Reviews are all over the place. My A92 and R5 are staying in my bag until the A1 arrives in March, so I can do my own assessment. Too many biases out of the way. Yeah, I am going to be doing a Canon R5 review with some RF lenses coming up. One of my lovely subscribers who lives here in Melbourne has contacted me, and we're going to organise a day where I can go out and shoot and use it and film it. So stay tuned for that. Should be really interesting. Axman said that the pre-show sometimes is the best. Dave said, hello from Indiana, David. I'm really not into video, but I love your shows and the community. Thanks, Dave. W. Keith said, we made it. Michael said, looking clean, David. Thank you very much, Michael. Shadows of Smoke said, where's my 35 GM? They've actually now said they don't know when they're going to be in stock. So apparently they've got no parts. I'm wondering whether, are you ready for this? There's ASMR here coming in. You ready? Is it because of the focus breathing? People that are first watching me are going to think I'm nuts. They're going to say, what's wrong with this guy? Yeah, is it? You ready? Is it the focus breathing? Ooh, that's all right, that drink. I don't mind that at all. I think I could down a few of them. Might as well start calling it lockup. Yeah, I know, it basically is a lockup. It's crazy. So what should I get now? I wanted to get the A7 III, but should I wait? I'd wait. Wait and see what happens. Raymond said, unless you need it now, Robbie. If you need it now, just get it. Raymond said, hi, Dave. Good to see you. Here's a pre-show cue. Re your small rig cage. You're liking it. I've never taken mine off. Yeah, I do. The only time I take it off really now is if I'm using the gimbal extensively. I found that with my gimbal setup, now that I'm using dual handles and everything. Every single little bit of weight makes a difference for me. I'm getting old. I said, I've got to start doing exercising or something, because even though it's 200 grams with a small rig cage on, that 200 grams makes a difference with me holding it all day. So now what I do is, if I'm putting it on the Rowan, I take it off. So I just use the camera on its own. But otherwise, if I'm not going to be using the Rowan all day, I would keep it on, yeah. But I do like keeping it on. It's a great little system. Good morning, Barry said. Raymond said, oh no, I've already read that. One sip and the focus gone. Yeah, I know, it's back now, I think. Now it's good. Okay, that's saying. Steve said hi. Joseph also said hi, Dave. Ken said, just received my second Pfizer shot today. Yeah, we're meant to be starting getting shots here at the end of next month, I believe. M. Chris said, hey all. Axman said, Q&A, sorry if I've already spoken about it, but I've gotten the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Just got mine. I love it. Yeah, I put a video up the other day about that, showing the sunflowers. So John said, drinking an Italian red wine, so unlikely to drink enough to get lit. Ike's here as well. G'day, Ike. Dane said, yes, they are good. AJ said, how many cases of COVID? Well, AJ, we've only got 19 or something. Like, it's just nuts. And they're all in hotel quarantine, basically. But one of the cleaners or something got it and he went home, and now he's given it to his spouse. But they're all in lockdown. But yeah, we've got 20 cases in the whole of Victoria. So 6 million people are in lockdown over 12 cases or 18 cases. So to let you know how strict it is, we've got to wear masks if we go anywhere. That's outside. It's a few $100s fine if you're caught without one. If outside, inside shopping centres, we can't have more than one person. We can't have anyone into your homes unless they're from family. You can exercise for 2 hours a day with one person. And that's about it, I think. So no weddings, funerals of 10 people. That's how strict it is. And we've got 18 cases or something. Nuts. Really, just crazy, honestly. Hi, David. Since moving the mic away, the camera no longer has mic detect autofocus. Yeah, no, I think it might have been grabbing on that. I think it's because what I do is I've got center focus on the camera, so it's probably on that. I think that's how I did it. Ike said, Doggle said, toying with the idea of an A7R4. Yeah, I would too. Oh, you're talking about the A7R5, yeah. I can close to renting and using an R5, but my local camera shop didn't have any lenses I wanted. Oh, okay, you were trying to rent one. Yeah, I'm lucky. Like I said, one of my subscribers has got one, so he's going to be bringing the camera and some RF lenses, so I can't wait to try it out. I'll wait for the focus breathing fix. I just give me my 35. I sold the Zeiss version. Yeah, I'm just wondering about whether there is, like, is Sony, just saying that there's parts problems, or are they trying to fix that breathing? If that comes back without breathing, we know exactly what's going on, because the problem is the breathing on that lens was not acceptable. It really wasn't, and I wouldn't buy it for that purpose, that problem alone. Michael said, I used the A1 this week and will have it back tomorrow. Lovely, Michael. How did you find it? Altric said, hola, or hi, I suppose that is. Raymond said, if the focus breathing is fixed in the 35GM, I may need to reconsider not getting one. Yeah, I'm not going to get one. I love my 24 so much that I'm not going to get one. Altric said, what's good? How long is the new lockdown? 5 days, Axeman, but who knows? I mean, this is what he said last time. We were going to just flatten the curve, and then we were locked down for 3 months. So, honestly. Those flower pictures were amazing. Which camera was it? The one I put on, the video that I put up was with the iPhone, but the camera I put up of Kerry, I'll show you. I've still got it here. Let me just have a look. Video main, I might still have it. Yeah, I have. I'll show you. Let me just open this up. Bring it over here. Let me see if I can just show it. Let me reduce it down. Now this was shot with the A9. Let me just see if I can get it so it fits full screen over here. Yeah, so this was shot with A9, and it was the Tamron 28-75. So that's what I use. My beautiful wife, Kerry, I adore her to death. She said, "Oh God, you're not using me as a model again, are you?" I said, "Yep, it's you're going to be photographed." So yeah, this is the A9. I love the A9. I really do love it. They have this open that you could go for a photography night. So that's what we did. We went there for the evening and watched the sunset. I've taken a whole stack of things because I wanted to review this lens. I'll just quickly show you this. Let me just quit Kerry so she's not on too long because she'd hate me showing you that. Yeah, so I wanted to use this lens, this Gear, this little thing that we've got here. Now, I also wanted to take some nice sunset shots, so I will post some, but I was dying to try this little well, it's not a macro lens, it's actually a 10mm. Look at the size of this thing, it's ridiculous. It's a 10mm f8 lens, and really it's manual focus. You just have two settings, which is, what does it say? It's 0.3 and then it goes to infinity. So I wanted to try and test it. Look how small the lens is. It's incredible. So it's a 10mm. It's sort of part, well, it is wide angle, but it's also, what do you call it when you get the curve? Oh God, I've gone blank. What do you call them? Someone in the live chat will be able to help me, you know, where it sort of distorts the horizon. But it's quite a cool little lens, and it was fun. So I wanted to try it on the day as well. So I've done that, and I did that for a review, and also I was reviewing a microphone setup as well. So yeah, I think I need to change this. I must have changed the focus settings because I used the A6400 when we went out with that, and that's why it's switching focus. I should have it on face detect. It's not doing face detect at the moment. So that's what I did on the day. So we did that, but I also took some sunset shots and things like that with the A9. Fisheye, thank you, 000. Yep, I was going blank. It's sort of a mix between the two. So stay tuned for the review. It's $70, like it's nothing, but to have a tiny little lens on that you can do some funky things is really good. And a car parked out the front, which was the Nissan what is it, the RX something, which is a supercar. It parked out the front, and I grabbed some shots. I couldn't believe it. I was wrapped. So I've got that too, which is great. So stay tuned. GTR, I think it is, the Nissan GTR. Beautiful car. Friends of mine own it. So what else are we saying? Before we start, I just would like to get through this and then we'll start it. How long? Yeah, lockdown is 5 days at this stage. Hopefully it's not longer. Like I said, 2 weeks and I start weedings again. So if they cut the weedings off again, oh my God, I don't even want to think about it because I need the money. Like I said, it's been 12 months since I've been able to work. So we don't want it again. I thought, here we go. I've booked weddings now that we're going to start running consistently. And where's the beer? Well, I'm drinking that today, Michael, instead. It's a bit of vodka. Beautiful shot. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, Kira looks gorgeous in that. Do you use FCP plugins with your Apple Silicon Mac? Yes, I do. I'll have to post a separate thing about that, Ken, because I post stacks of them. I do use stacks of them. I use a lot of the... what do they call, the VFX plugins? I use a lot of those, but a lot aren't working at this stage. So we've got problems because most of them don't work. So I'm waiting on updates. But I have got a fix that gets around that, and I might talk about that in a separate video, but there is a fix now that I can start it up into Rosetta mode. Fisheye, yes, that was it. Dana was also here. G'day, Dana. Tiny Globe. Yeah, I know, it's that small. It's crazy. David, is the 24? Yeah, I love that lens. Diego, yeah, it's one of my favourite lenses. I don't take that off on a wedding day. I absolutely adore it. And that is my gimbal go-to lens. I nearly leave that all the time on my gimbal. I think that is the best lens you can stick on a gimbal. It's beautiful because it's not too wide and you still get beautiful depth of field. It's a 1.4 lens, really light. And so sharp. It's beautiful, that lens. I love it. Do you use all those gimbals? No, I'm going to sell them. I'm just waiting for, GTR, yep, it's beautiful. Lost focus again when you took a drink. Yeah, it's not on face detection. I'm going to have to change the focus. Just bear with me. I'm going to see if I can change it quickly. No, it's still not doing it. I think I've turned off face detection when I was using that lens or something. I'll have to look at it later on. So if I put anything up near my face, it's going to jump out. I'll fix it later on though. At least it's working. Conrad said, should I cancel my 35 order for the 24? Look, it depends, Conrad. I used to talk about how I used to shoot. I did used to shoot all the time. 35 is my favorite focal length, but I just love the 24 now. Since I got that lens, I just adore it, and I use it for portraits and everything. So me personally, I would get the 24, but if you love the 35mm focal length, well then obviously you may be better with that one. It just depends on how you shoot. I find that it's just stunning because it's wide enough to give you a lot of ambient sort of there, as well as I think it's fine for portraits as well. So I love it. I absolutely love the 24 GM. Maria just said hello as well. I'm going to start straight after these guys. Raymond said, I think you said in a past show that you use the Zeiss Batis 85. Yes, I do. I swap between the two. I have the 24, and then if I want to get some really nice headshots, I use the Zeiss Batis because they weigh exactly the same, so I don't have to rebalance the gimbal. So it's fantastic. And yeah, no rebalancing. They take the same filters, the 67mm filter as well, so it's just perfect. And I suppose the 85 Sony lens would be probably about the same as well. In Los Angeles, we're going through opening and closing business for a year now. I think this is our 4th time closing, but we're open right now. I know it's crazy, Michael, like you guys are open and we have 19 cases and we've got 6 million people closed down. Bill said, hi, David, I'm drinking brandy. It's cold here and snowing in Western Washington State. We don't usually get snow in the lowlands. Tomorrow I will get photos. That sounds great. He went to try setting it. Yeah, I know. I tried to set the camera. I'll have to set it when I turn it off. It's not doing face detection. All right, so let's get stuck into the story. So let me put into here. It's 22:38. If you don't want to watch all of these guys, I will put the timeline down below. 23:40. Oh, actually, I've got to put it in the other place. So it sets the thing up there. Because I'm excited to talk about this new camera. 23:57. All right, first story. Let's talk about this new FX3. Like, wow. This is really interesting looking at this camera. And I wanted to talk to you about all this because it's really interesting to see what Sony are thinking about here. They're saying the first the Sony A1 challenged the camera EOS R5. Now the Sony FX3 seems to be poised to take on the Canon EOS C70. Now, g'day, Aaron. Nice to see you in here. So if you look down at the camera body itself, to me, it looks like a sort of mix of an A7 series cameras and an A6000 type series cameras. But this is more completely video-centric, apparently. And you can see on the top that they have these mounting holes, which means you're going to be able to stick different things. And I'll show you, because if you look here, where was it? I think it's this one. I had one. Oh, here. You can see if you look at this, how they mounted things directly into the top of this, which is really cool, actually. So if you didn't want to have to stick a cage on this, or even if you had a cage, you're going to have other mounting options directly on the top of the camera. So this looks like it's a really cool idea, and really sort of small and probably light. So I think this is quite exciting. And like I said to you the other day, I'm getting more and more into video. In fact, like I said to you, I don't even know if I will buy an A1 now. I'd probably buy an A7S III, or it might be that I get this when I can get one. I'm not getting one for this year, that's for sure, especially now we're in lockdown again. So I may get something like this. Now, this looks really interesting. Now from what I've seen, the way that this works is it's going to not have a mechanical shutter at all. So they're saying it is a video-centric camera, but it has got a shutter button. Now, that must mean it's going to take, using electronic shutter, images, still images. It has to, because there's no reason why you would have a record button on the top and then that there if they weren't meant to be done for different things. So clearly, this is going to have stills as well. Now, that probably will make it, it's going to be interesting to see what sort of sensor they put into this camera, because to me, if they're really going to make this so that you can use stills out of this, it has to have a sensor in it that can stop the rolling shutter. And also, if this is a video-centric camera, I would expect this to have incredible no rolling shutter. So it's going to be an incredibly fast type sensor in it as well. I mean, there's rumors too about, some are saying that it's going to have 8K, some are saying it's only going to have 4K. So if you look at that, it's going to be interesting to see where they position this camera as, say, against the A7S III. And it's quite, I mean, I'm so happy that Sony just keep doing this, but like, boy, I'm just wondering if the cameras are going to start sort of taking away from the other camera that's just been released. But there's one thing that worries me about this, and they're saying that this probably will have S-Cinetone. Now, if that means then, because that's going to have S-Cinetone, does that mean they're not going to give us that on the A7S III? I hope that's not the case. So Sony, if you're listening to this, please do not screw us and not put S-Cinetone on the A7S III. But having said that, like I mentioned in last week's show, that profile that I use now matches S-Cinetone almost exact. So it's not such a big deal, but I would like just a way of clicking over and just using S-Cinetone from the menus, and that would be great. So I'm just hoping Sony still give us that for the A7S III. But looking at it, like I said, it sort of does look like a mix of an A6000 sort of series and an A7 series. It's quite interesting how this looks. I'm just looking up at the A6400 up there, and it looks very, very similar to how that looks. We don't know how sort of the size of this, really yet, but I think it's an interesting concept and an interesting design. Being the square shape like that particularly doesn't bother me. I think it's actually nice ergonomically for video anyway. And I think this is quite a good idea, the way that they've designed this. Apparently there is heat sinks built into this, and there's vents as well. Something about on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, there's vents as being part of this camera. You do have your buttons through here as well. I think Sony Alpha, let me just see, because I'll just see if I can bring up Sony Alpha rumors, because they had showing the back as well. Let me go here. Sony Alpha rumors, because I'm sure that they showed the back. Yeah, here. So if we look at this one, let me just move this over. If you look here, you can see the back of the camera. Now, this sort of explains it a little bit better. Is this the vent that they were talking about? I don't know. I've never seen the vent, so it's going to be interesting. But someone mentioned that to me, no, looking at that looks like your camera strap. But I know I read somewhere that there's vents in this, or is this the vent that they're talking about here, or is that the microphones? I'm not sure, but I know someone mentioned there's vents built into this to get the heat out. Now, I think that's probably going to have to be done, because if this body is smaller, and we think it is, looking at the size of this, than an A7 series, if it's going to run. And the incredible part about this is they're saying this runs 4K 60 or 120 for hours. Yes, there is no EVF, Aaron, but apparently with this sort of system, it's probably one where you're going to be able to add it like the Fuji systems do. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because remember, I use EVFs a lot, and I even with video, because if it's very, very light outside, I have trouble seeing the EVF. I just hope Sony have upgraded the screen on the back of this. If this is the same crappy screen that's on there, it's going to be a bit of a downfall, because I like to use the EVF. I know a lot of videographers say they don't do that, but I use the EVF all the time to get critical focus and to get critical exposure. And everyone always says to me, how do you always nail such good exposure? And it's because I'm using the EVF. But I know a lot of videographers don't do that, but I like to do that. So I think what they'll do is they'll add an accessory that gives you the EVF if you need it. But a lot of videographers don't want EVFs at all. And that's the beauty of this. So it will probably make it a little bit cheaper. And you've got the fully articulating screen as well on there as well. This is why this camera really appeals to me, because I do love the articulated screen. I really like it a lot. And in fact, I've thought more and more about it, and I really don't want to give that up. Why does that keep refreshing? That's weird. I really don't want to give it up. So this camera may interest me as being the second body that I'll get. So if we look at it, you've got similar sort of wheels to your normal A series cameras or the A6400. The interesting thing is the jog wheel or your joystick is up the top. So that's an interesting thing to do up there. I'm not sure. I suppose if you're sort of going to be holding it and moving it around, it might not be so bad. But I think personally I would have liked that on the back. But it is interesting that they've put that up the top. It looks like you've got sort of multiple controls, and they are all raised very, very well. So they're like the A9 series bodies, so that they are raised up really nicely there. You've got a record button, and that's why I'm saying I think this is going to take stills as well, because you have that shutter at the front. Now, the other interesting thing is I noticed at the front you've got you have got another sort of quick function key down here, but there's also a function button there. So it looks like you're going to be able to program this in multiple places. So it looks like it's very, very customizable. You've got your front jog wheel through here, and you've also got your telephoto lens. Now, this says to me that Sony are probably going to be bringing out more lenses that have telephoto. I know that you could use this with clear image zoom, I suppose, if you wanted to, and I do that. But it looks like I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be more zoom lenses. What is it, like the 18 to 105? They do have the more professional one as well as the Super 35 one. So it may be that they're going to bring out more as well. But what do you guys think this is on the back? Because this here, I'm not sure what that is. What would that be? Because it looks like there's two positions, or is it a wheel that you can switch across or back? I haven't heard anyone talking about that at all. This is your mode switch to switch between modes, and then obviously you get into your menu, switching through there. I'd love to read too what these say. I know the top's display, but I'm not sure what the other words are saying there either. So I don't know. And it looks like the fold-out screen looks way more industrially designed, talking about strength, than what the A7 S3 is. Like, this looks like it's really strongly designed. So I'm not sure whether this is going to flip out and be more sort of like what the Panasonic SH1 has. It's going to be interesting to see how it is. Like, you can even see, if you look down here, that it sticks out on this corner as well. So it looks like it's a really beefy version. You think it's a power switch? Oh, it could be, yeah. Oh, okay, good point. Yeah, it probably is. So it looks like the fold-out rear screen is definitely a much more beefier version than what we've got in the A7S III. Yeah, everyone's saying it's a power switch. Okay, well, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, there is a power switch there. You're right. It's got the thing there, yep. So I think this looks really nice. I love, it says Cinema Line on here. There's nothing about IBIS being mentioned at all, but I noticed the A1 doesn't have anything about IBIS inside either. So we don't know whether this is going to have IBIS. The other thing too is that we don't even know whether this is going to have a variable ND built in. I think if it's got IBIS, we won't get a variable ND. I actually think they should probably leave IBIS out because and put a variable ND in. That would be what I would wish for this, because true cinema line cameras, so let's face it, Sony's stabilization is not fantastic for video. It's okay, but it's not fantastic for video. I always recommend sticking it on a gimbal, and that's probably how a lot of videographers would use this. They'd stick it on a gimbal, and in fact, I think the future is probably going to be Catalyst, and I think that's the way that this is going to be. Like, they could easily make this just work with Catalyst. Therefore, you have to turn off all of your internal IBIS. I'm hoping that there is no IBIS, and some of you are going to think I'm nuts, but I'm hoping if it's a case of IBIS or internal ND, I hope it has an internal ND. Like Ike's saying, the body is too small to have a decent IBIS. But I think being a full-on video camera, I really don't see that really is an issue. So the A1 has 8K steady shot logo on the grip side of the camera. You sure it has it? I didn't think it did, Jeff. What you've used it, Michael. Did it have IBIS? Do you remember? So this is interesting. So anyway, it's not listed anywhere that it has IBIS. Of course, you could use a stabilized lens like my Batis and other lenses that have stabilization built in. So that would be a feature if you did want to have IBIS. And in fact, when I use the 17 to 28, the new Sony lens, Tamron lens, sorry, the new, 17 to 105 that had IBIS in, and it was actually very, very good. And I used that in the A6400, which doesn't have IBIS, and it actually worked great. So looking at the body, I think the body is a really nice design. I really like it, actually. I think it's terrific. You still obviously can use all your microphone attachments like I've got with, using this, because it's got the electronic adapters there, so you could still use this if you wanted to use this type of microphone. Or I'd say there's going to be a stack. Michael says, yeah, the A1 does have IBIS. Yeah, but does it say it's got IBIS on the camera, Michael? That's what I'm curious about. I know it's got IBIS, but does it actually say it on the body? I think we're going to get a stack of accessories that you can mount directly on the camera. So this looks like it's a really beefy camera, because if you're screwing into the camera, there's no way known they're not going to build a body that's strong enough to be able to take that. It's a cinema line camera. So this is really interesting. Now let me just come back to here and we'll sort of say what they're saying on this website. Let me keep coming down. They're saying that what they're going to do here is they think that Sony is trying to compete with the Canon EOS C70 as well as other pocket cinema cameras like the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. And if we're coming down, they're also saying through here, let me just bring this up for a second. What's this one, isn't it? I think that they're saying it through here. What's confusing about the Sony FX3 is that it carries the FX designation, making it part of the manufacturer's Cine camera series, which includes the Sony FS6 and the FX9. I know a lot of people who are saying they bought the FX6 recently are now saying, oh, God, I shouldn't have bought that and waited for this. I mean, who knows? This is why I'm saying it's interesting to see what Sony are thinking about this, because it's quite interesting. They're saying still the Cinema Line FX3 top plate betrays the Sony is positioning this as another contender for the best cinema crown. So they're saying because of those screw-in adapters at the top, they're saying basically that it is becoming a total cine type camera. A top joystick, which is something we've never seen before. Let me just turn this off again. This could be incredibly significant. They're saying Sony has delivered a monster 5-inch rear screen similar to the Blackmagic Pocket cinema cameras. Now, I don't think it, to me, I don't know where they're getting that from, because that screen doesn't look like a monster back screen, but this is what they're saying here. An increasingly mythical sharp 8K video camera. See, I think this might be rumors before Sony Alpha reported the rumors, because they're now saying that it just does 4K 60 and 4K 120. What else? I'm just trying to see what else they're saying here. Further questions are raised about the camera's supposed specs. What else are they saying? A new 8K LME video cam. It can shoot Ultra UHD 8K, oversample DCI 4K, and high frame rate UHD 4K. But they're saying it sort of competes directly with the FX6 and the FX9. But the interesting thing is this. If you look here, going to bring that up. So where does the truth lie? At the moment, between this and the A1, the video-focused Sony A7S III might just have become completely redundant. And I'd love to know your opinion about this. Of course, the specs could be incorrect, and this could be like a Canon EOS C70, a hybrid digital SLR style cinema or cine camera that bridges the gap between mirrorless cameras. But I noticed on Sony Alpha rumors, let me just get rid of this for a second. Where were we? Because they mentioned something about ridiculous times for overheating or for how long you can shoot. Sony Alpha rumors. Where was it? I think it was here. Yeah. Let me just show you this because I saw this morning. They're saying here. Where was it that I read it? Does it have it on here? Oh, yeah. So they're saying the price is going to be €3,795. Take CF Express A cards. Now, I'm hoping it's dual cards and not just one. I'm sure Sony won't make that mistake. But it'll probably be the combination one where it'll take, your normal cards as well as CF Express A. It records, Sony Alphas are saying that it records 4K 120p and not 8K. and pre-order February the 23rd. So it's not that long off. It's actually very, very close. A news source also sent me this, and it says the new FX3 is a little bit the same as the A7S III. Active cooling, XLR adapter in the box. So they're saying you're going to get an XLR adapter in the box. So that's really interesting, and it probably screws into one of those adapters at the top. No overheating after 13 hours in 4K, and all i10-bit 422. 3/4 inch holes on the top, 2 for XLR adapter and 1 free. And like I said, they'll probably have other adapters that are going to click onto there, like EVFs and things like that. And 3/4 on both sides. So it seems like it's really going to be great if you're going to rig this up without having to buy cages and stuff. But they're saying the price is €4,500. SAR noted that didn't know that the €3,750 price I got with this without VAT. Okay, so they're saying now with tax it's going to be $4,500. And it looks like they showed this advertisement that came up, and they said here that obviously this is saying it's without tax. And it looks like it's going to be able to be pre-ordered on February the 23rd. So the announcement has to be fairly soon. I noticed Michael saying, no, this is totally different than a real cine camera. The hardware alone on a real cine camera for those that use them will make them say, I pass, unless it can become a B cam. But I think it's fantastic. And like I said, this really interests me. I'm dying to see what the actual specs of this are. This could be a great camera for me to get to complement my A7S III. I still think I would be surprised if Sony have made the A7S redundant. We don't know what this is going to be like in low light and things like that. That might be the difference between, say, using this and the A7S III is the low light potential of the A7S III. So we don't know what this is going to be like. And like I said, don't expect this to be an all-weather camera either. But it's certainly one, like I said, that I may be interested in getting another camera. Like I said to you all, I'm really seriously thinking about buying another video camera or something that will do that as my next camera rather than a stills one, because I'm now starting to go so much into video. I really would like a B cam. I know you could use the A1 as that, obviously, but, I don't want to spend that much at this stage. But I'm also interested to see what the A7 IV comes out. That may be the one that really interests me as well, just only because I'm not interested at this stage in getting a 50-megapixel camera. I probably would like to stay around the 24 to 30, which would be a perfect size for the type of shooting that I do. So anyway, I'm really excited about this. I can't wait to see what this is, what they announce with this. And boy, Sony are kicking some goals like it's nuts. So I think this could be great. I really do, depending on costing, obviously, and what's available in it. I am seriously interested in what is going to be coming out with this camera. I'm excited. So that's really all I'm going to say on this as well. Greg said use as an A and C or as a B cam. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Greg, to see what they actually do bring out on this. So that's that story. Now I'm going to keep going because I want to get through, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end, because I want to show also about the Sony versus Canon. So what are we on? 43. 43. 58. All right, so this next story is really interesting because I should go here first because it's about this. They're saying here that should we be comparing the Alpha 1 to the EOS R5? And this whole article talks about that. And I'm just saying what YouTube said. David, I remember a year ago you wanted the old Sony to be back. Well, it is here. It certainly is YouTube, that's for sure. Now, I think the reason why people are comparing this to the EOS R5 and not to, say, other cameras, and I'll take you through this article and I'd love to see what you think, because at the moment, they're only comparing the A1 to the EOS R5 because the EOS R5 is the top mirrorless camera that Canon produce. So at the moment, they sort of have to compare it to that. Remember, if you're talking about comparing it to a digital SLR, they're different cameras. So if you're sort of at this stage, if you're sort of working at this stage just thinking about how would you compare the camera to anything else, well, you have to compare it until Canon bring out another camera. You've sort of got to compare it to what Canon have released at this stage. Now, they keep going down saying that really they're totally different cameras, and I completely understand that. But I did want to show you something here that, looking at low light and things like that, I think the A1 really is kicking some goals here. And I think looking at it though, I think I still prefer the Canon color a fraction. If you're looking at straight out of camera JPEGs, I like the Canon colors a fraction better. I don't know whether you're going to be able to see this. I'll put the links down below though, so you can have a look yourself. I think Canon always do lovely reds, but detail particularly is very, very good, I think, in the Alpha 1. If you move up in ISO, I think you can see that the Alpha 1 is better than the EOS R. If you look at the detail and stuff, it's much, much better. The color still is a little bit different. Color though, I think, like you look at color and basically it's subjective anyway. What was the real color like? For starters, we don't know. I'm just looking at this sort of from memory. We can't sort of compare the two that way. But both cameras seem to be really, really good. If you went right up in high ISO, like 25,000, even though the Sony has a lot of noise, it still maintains detail, whereas the Canon looks mushy as. It looks terrible, actually. It looks like a painting. It's that bad. So, looking at this from a color aspect, I'm just talking about looking at something that looks pleasing. I think the Canon EOS R5 is still beating Sony, if you look at that. But if you look at detail, I think the detail Sony is winning. Low light, Sony is definitely winning in ISO. You're definitely getting more detail. The Canon starts to look really quite mushy. But to talk about things coming down a little bit more, and I'm going to talk about these reviews in a minute as the next story. It's interesting how they compare it to, like I said, the EOS R5. But I think, like I said, you've got to. Now, if we come down, where was it? He's saying here that, or Peter Pixel's saying here that the 5D Mark V was never compared to the Nikon D6 and the D850, but they're not mirrorless cameras. And this is where I think YouTubers that are saying they're comparing it to the 5D, okay, well, that wasn't a mirrorless camera yet. But I think comparing the high-end Canon mirrorless camera to the Sony mirrorless camera is a fair comparison at this stage. I know that they're not compared in direct specs, but they are still, no matter what Canon say, it is their highest-end mirrorless. So I don't have an issue with comparing the two really at this stage. I mean, I do expect Canon obviously soon and Nikon soon to bring out an R1 or whatever, and they'll have similar comparisons alone. But actually, from what I've seen, and like I said, I can't wait to get the Canon EOS R5 myself and test that out. From what I've seen, the Canon really is playing above its weight. If you look at how the autofocus works and the colors straight out of camera and things like that, I think the Canon EOS R5 really is a good camera. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when they bring out like an R1. That really is going to be an interesting scenario. But I think overall, it's good. I mean, I've got no complaint at all about comparing it to an EOS R5 because they are both the top mirrorless cameras at this stage. That's all I wanted to mention about that. But let's get down to the truth about the reviews, because I wanted to bring this up. So what are we now? 49. 10. Because I know there was a lot of complaints about, well, Tony's video, for instance. So let's sort of discuss that, because it's an interesting scenario. I just wanted to go through this with you, though, because DP Review did just put up a full review of the camera, and I'll just quickly go through the specifications again, just in case if someone doesn't know what the A1 is. So it's a 50 megapixel stacked full frame sensor. It has 30 frames per second burst shooting, and I'll talk all about this in a minute from the review that like Tony did, with electronic shutter. That's if you're using lossy compressed though, or JPEG, or HEIF. 8K 30p video recording with log, and 4K video recording over HDMI, 1/400th of a second flash sync, and also the mechanical shutter. That's with the mechanical shutter, and electronic shutter you have 1/200th. The resolution of the EVF is nuts. It's 9.4 million dots, nothing like it out there. A touchscreen is crap. Let's face it, the touchscreen is just typical Sony crap compared to the new cameras that are out there. Full-size HDMI port, microphone, mic ports, full-size HDMI port alone, I would buy it just for that. USB-C with 10 gigabits per second transfer, dual CF Express Type A card slots. That's where Canon and Nikon made the biggest mistakes in the mirrorless arsenal by not giving full redundancy. Nikon particularly, Canon have, but you can't record video to both cards at the same time. I mean, that is nuts. Just the shots rated, I'm not going to go through that. Anyway, let me go through this discussion down here, because I noticed there's been a couple of reviews that have come out talking about the Canon against the Sony. And I think, I mean, look, I quite like Tony and Chelsea. I think they actually are quite good, but I don't understand sometimes the reviews that are out there, because it's interesting. Because let me just talk about that review alone. Now, I noticed there's a video out. I should have actually found it. I'm going to Google it just to see if I can find it for you, because it really does show every single thing that I'm going to talk about. Let me just see if I can find it. Comparison between EOS R5 and Sony A9. I'll just see if I can find it. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to find it or not. Let me just see. I hope I can, because it'll certainly, if not, I'll see if I can find the link later and put it down below. Yeah, I don't think it's there. It was a Chinese company. Oh, hang on, let me have a look here. Oh, no, that's dynamic range. No, I can't see it. I can't find it. You'd have to remember what I searched for. Well, anyway, I'll explain it. What it actually showed is that there was a fan that was obviously spinning. Now, they took, using the electronic shutter, they took photos using the continuous shooting, like 20 frames per second, obviously, on the A9 and 20 frames per second on the EOS R5, because I think that they both do both of those amount of images. But when you looked at the images of the Canon, the rolling shutter was terrible. It was really quite bad. When you looked at the rolling shutter of the Sony A9 II, it was dead still. So the rolling shutter wasn't there at all. Now, the A1 is going to be even better than that. So when they're showing Chelsea like grabbing photos that were coming across the screen and she was grabbing birds and things like that in electronic shutter, I doubt, honestly, that the shutter would be quick enough in the electronic shutter to stop those images from having rolling shutter. Now, he never mentioned that at all, and I think that's one of the big downfalls of what they were saying. They were trying to make out like the EOS R5 was just as good as the Sony A1. That's impossible due to the fact of the rolling shutter that you get on the Canon. So I think that's flawed, and I don't understand why no one has really talked about that or showed that. And I think that's one of the big things as well. This was photography as well. There was nothing mentioned at all about the amazing thing of being able, I think he did mention that you could shoot at 132,000, so yeah, that was good. The bit about the lens being pulled off with the adapter just didn't make sense to me, because I've never ever heard of anyone else saying that's happened. You can let me know in the chat if that's ever happened to you, but I don't know, it just seems like that was a bit of a put on. I'm not sure. The other thing too was they never mentioned at all the flash sync speed, and that's massive, the difference between these two cameras. To have 1/400th or 1/500th if you're shooting Super 35 is a massive advantage between what the Canon A1 is giving you over what the Sony A1 is giving you over what the Canon has, and also having the ability to use the 1/200th in electronic shutter. That shows you how fast that shutter is. If they've been able to give you that, it's if they're giving you that ability to do that in electronic shutter, that exposure is so fast that you can use flash in that. So they didn't mention that side of it at all. All they did was, like I said, do the bird photographers and stuff like that and show the eye tracking AF. So, I don't know, I think it was a little bit flawed in how they're showing that video. You know, it really is. Remember too that the other thing as well is that Animal IF, when they were showing it on the birds and things like that, that Sony, the camera hasn't even been released yet. The Canon has had multiple firmware updates, and they have. You've got to give it to Canon. They have really improved the firmware on the autofocus over the last few months with their firmware upgrades. Who knows what on earth they're going to have on Sony when they probably send out some firmware updates with that as well. So it's really interesting to see what's happening. You know, they're comparing a camera that is not even released yet against something that is released with multiple firmware updates. You're going to find that the IAF is just going to improve and improve and improve over that camera. But I just don't believe that you're going to be taking photos at 20 frames per second with the Canon and they're going to be dead still. I don't think, did they even show much of her images from that as against Tony, who was showing the images? Because, like I said, the rolling shutter is not good. So I don't understand, you know, what that sort of was. So, yeah, someone's saying watch Mark Galler's video. I haven't watched that yet, but yeah, so it's really interesting. I mean, I think at the moment, yes, you can compare it to the Canon, because they are both the ultimate ends of that. And as soon as Canon release an R1, then you would compare the R1 to the A1. Now, am I banging the Canon? No, because like I said to you before, I think the Canon actually is a really good camera. And I think if you're looking at the price you can get that camera for, yeah, it probably evens out by the time you get the lenses, which are really expensive. But I think that the Canon is an amazing camera. I really do. I'm looking at the images. Like I said, the only part that puts me off that camera is that you can't back up your video. And I think that was just the biggest stupid move by Canon, not having the ability to get redundant footage if you're shooting weddings and events where you know it's a one-off and you can't you just can't take the risk of losing those images. There's no way I would work at a wedding and shoot video on one card and not have another backup. It's just nuts. So that was just stupid of Canon for doing that. And like I said, I would slam Sony for doing the same thing. So that was silly. But as a camera itself, I think the Canon autofocus now is easily on par with what Sony have got, easily. And like I said, in Animal IAF and some IAF, it's actually ahead of Sony. But I expect Sony to release updates over the coming months and probably improve that. Color-wise, I still think Canon has a very, very slight edge if you're talking about straight out of JPEGs. I haven't really looked at much of the images yet, but I would expect this to have the same color as the A7S3, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful straight out of camera, and you've got the Cine profile, S-Cine profile as well. S-Cine tone. I'm hoping that the A7S3 has that. I'm really hoping that Sony give us that in the coming months. I hope now that new camera that comes out that Sony don't hold back. So anyway, but I think I just wanted to say too, just be careful, and this is what I've always said to you guys, just be careful what you believe about what you see on reviews that are out there. Just wait until people have paid for the camera or have no bias at all, either one way or the other, start to get the camera and they can do reviews that, you know, are not sponsored or other things. So I think that's probably what I would recommend to do. And they're going to be released shortly anyway. So I would expect the A1 to just kick anything that's out there. And I've just got a feeling that it's going to be just incredible. Like I said, if I had the money, I would certainly buy one myself. But having a look at that other camera, it may be that I go for the FX3 or the A7 IV. Like I said, I've got time now. Greg's just saying the lens falling off was crap. Yeah, I know. I was very sus of that, Greg. I just thought that was really crazy. I've never, ever seen that before happen. And it's interesting how the minute that he mentioned it, it fell off. I thought, come on. But, you know, anyway, I just thought it's a bit of a furphy. And then to finish up, let's just bring up these two lenses that I'll just show you before we go to Q&A. There is two new lenses announced, which is really interesting. There's well, not announced, but they're saying there's going to be a new Sigma zoom announced, and they're saying it's going to compete with the Tamron 28-75 FE. This is really interesting because I love that lens. That's what I showed you, the image I took of Kerry. That was what I used for that, and I really do like it. So it's going to be interesting to see how Sigma sort of compete against that. But interesting, they're saying it's going to be around $900, but really interesting. And lastly, before we go to Q&A, Tamron have patented 2 new lenses. One of these really interests me, the 90mm f2.8 macro. I am in the market for a good macro. So this one may be one that I get. I'm dying to try. I know the Sony is brilliant. The 90mm is brilliant, but it's expensive. I'm hoping that this has the normal costing that they have. And it might be one that I grab for weddings and things like that. So I'm really interested in the 90mm macro. The other one, I just thought, well, it's probably going to be a cheap lens, but it's a 2470 f4. Now, I know the Sony one is, I hated the Sony 2470 f4, and I sold it as soon as I used it. So this is going to be interesting to see the quality that you're getting on this and how that compares to that as well. Aaron says, yeah, he loves his 90mm macro. Yeah, it's such a great lens, Aaron. So yeah, and the Sigma is great too, Greg. Yeah, the 90mm macro. But like I said to you guys, I always get the Tamron lenses to try out before they're released, so I'm dying to get that as well. The R6 rolling shutter is bad. Yep, they are. They're both not very good, Hero, compared to what Sony have got. That's for sure. Like I said, if I could find that fan image, it would show it perfectly. So there you go. So let me just put down here what time we are on Q&A. Oh, I don't need to do that. I'll just put the other things. All right, so let's have a look at what people are saying. We'll try and go through these reasonably quickly. Let me just come down. I'll just start sort of halfway down. New tally lights look nice. We don't think we know it's a power switch. You can see, yeah, the icons, yeah, I saw that afterwards. I missed that completely. The body is too small to have any decent IBIS. Yeah, it's interesting. I think you're probably right. And that's the problem. I think if it's that case and it's not really a photography camera, remember the IBIS really in the Sony cameras does better for stills than it does for video. You can't compare it to something like what Canon are doing with the R5 or what Panasonic do with the Micro Four Thirds. But the Micro Four Thirds is a lot easier because the sensor's so small. So the main benefit you get from the IBIS is the stills image. It does help in video. Like I can handhold them actually quite well. But it's not brilliant. So I think losing it on a true video camera is probably not going to be too much of an issue because they would be running these on things like gimbals and tripods and stuff like that as well. That's why it might work beautifully with an A7S3 because you've got the stabilization on that and have this as a camera you could fix onto a tripod or something. What else have we got? 10-bit 422. Yes, they're saying it will, but have 10-bit 422. Use it on sticks mainly and the A7 III outside. I would use this camera with my 24-105. Yeah, it'd be fantastic, actually. On the right side of the A1. Okay, so it does say it. It looks like a Sigma FB. It sort of does. Yeah, like I said, it's a mix of a couple of cameras. It reminds me very much of my A6400 when I look at it. Michael says he doesn't remember seeing that. I wish it would be shooting 6K. On the side of the screen, looks like a big and robust hinge. Yeah, it does, Japan. That's the thing. It looks like it's industrially designed much stronger than what the A7S III is. They really look like beefy hinges that are on the back of that. Would love 2.7, 240 frames per second. That would be incredible. It's so thick. Yep. Body looks a lot deeper. Might have internal NDs. If this has internal NDs, if they put that in the FX3, this thing will sell like nuts. It will sell like crazy. I'm not going to say hotcakes because Casey always bags me when I say that. But yeah, it will sell like mad if they put internal NDs on this. It looks like it's just got active cooling, John, not passive cooling, I mean. Is it passive or active? It looks like it's just from a heat sink. I think the active is a fan, isn't it? Pentax. Don't expect this to be an all-weather camera. Well, it probably can't be if it has those vents there for heating either. 6K would be nice. Michael said, not saying it's a bad camera. I kind of like it as well, but as a B cam if the specs are right. Indoor A7S3 corporate shoots, particularly if you can shoot that long with it. I wish Sony would just add Cinetone to the A7S3 if the sensor will. It would have to allow it, Organic Farmer. It's just Sony not giving it to us. I've got a feeling Sony will give it to us on that camera. We just have to wait. I'm hoping so anyway. Could this be the camera that they want you to mount on there? It could be. Exactly. That might be it. Greg said use the A7 III as a B cam. Harry said the Canon R5. Ted said, I don't see why you'd pay more than the A7S. Well, it depends on what the specs are, Ted, doesn't it? Like I said, if that had internal NDs on this, and we don't know yet truly what the specs are of this camera. Also, if they do have modular bits that can be put onto this easily, like your XLR things and stuff like that, it really might be an amazing camera. YouTube said, Dave, I remember a year ago you wanted the old Sony to be back. Well, it is there. Yeah, I agree. They've gone nuts lately. They're incredible. Cameraman said, B-cam, how about your A9? More than enough, surely. Well, it is, but I'm not shooting stills and video at the same time, remember? So the problem for me is I like to have one camera. I use one camera for stills. Say if I'm doing a wedding, I'd have a gimbal with the A7S on it because that's what I'll be shooting my video on, the A7S III, and then I would be having my A9 and taking stills. But I still need another camera on a tripod and another angle, and that's why I need another video camera. Kerry is always shooting with the A7 III anyway, so you know it's usually that way for me. But I'd like another video camera to have another angle. Did anyone give this video a thumbs up? Yes, I would really appreciate it, guys, if you could give me a thumbs up or a thumb down, because I notice we've got 2, so that's fine. It still counts towards the engagement. If Dave finally realized, hang on, he said David should just work for Sony Alpha Remus. I like it if Dave finally realizes this is Phil. I do, Phil. I know it's you. I just say your channel because then people will follow you, so that's why I keep doing it. The Happy Clan I can't be compared to Nikon, I should say. Ike said, no matter how much you want to compare the two, the R5 and A1 are both awesome. They are, exactly. I agree. Sony has always seemed to fall short in the creamy tonality of the Canon. Yeah, it may also be something to do with the lenses too. Like the Sony the Canon 1.2 particularly have that beautiful transition, and that's why I've always had this real love of that Canon. That's one lens I'm going to borrow when I get the R5, so I can't wait to try that lens out. Sony needs to make a 16mm f1.8 or better, yet 1.8 if possible. They probably will, I think. 1.4, that would be a pretty beefy lens. That guy says 0.95. I told colleague his photos just look like a painting once, and he was happy. I told a colleague. Fan, Jason said. John said, I'd say the Alpha 1 is a little better, but not much better. It's not. It's a little bit better. Yeah, you're right, John, for the difference. The R5 actually looks pretty good. It does. It does. Animal IAF is better with Canon. Yep, and I think from what I've seen, the R5 is actually better. Definitely. It's fine to compare anything. It should be compared to Fuji medium format. That's also another nice camera. The R5 is a great camera, but hammer cripple. Yeah, it's silly things like I said they've done is not having that redundancy for video as well. John said, here we go. I'm looking forward to trying it, John. The A1 is deep past the point of diminishing returns. Costs a lot to make it slightly better. And that is one good point. I think we are now reaching the point of almost diminishing returns on any of the cameras that are up there. It's only minute differences. And that's the thing. Now, it could make a difference. Like Tony said, for instance, that having the 30 frames per second against the 20 could mean the difference between getting a picture of a soccer player, footballer, heading the ball at that perfect moment. So, yes, that could make a difference, having that one image. But like I said to you before, I think it's only a matter of time too before we get video. We basically, the A9 is shooting video now. If you're getting up to 24 to 30 frames, you're basically shooting video. So it's not long until we're just doing that and then you'll just take stills out of it. I think the A1 is the first camera where we're starting to almost get to that point where you could do that. And imagine what they're going to be in 5 years' time. You know, I think we probably will just be taking video and capturing it as we go. You could use flash. The electronic shutter has proven that. So Sony is... what else have we got? YouTube said 4.5 times faster readout than the R5. I wouldn't call that slightly better. It is. It's a massive difference. Yep, you're right. For rolling shutter, it is. Sony is releasing cameras like people are changing their clothes. It's becoming an issue. I love the technology we're benefiting from, but this can devalue a lot of new cameras, putting them out too fast. Yeah, it can, Michael, and that's why I'm saying it's interesting what Sony have done here, and I'm really interested in what the specs are. I don't really care in a way, because I'm incredibly happy with my Sony A7S III. Even if this new camera that comes out sort of takes away from that, I'm going to keep that camera for a long period of time. So I'm not too worried about it devaluing or anything anyway. I'll be holding onto that for a long time because I love it that much. So I understand what you're saying. I think with anything with technology, though, you know, if you're going to do it that way, you're waiting forever. And I don't know, at least I'd prefer them to be putting things out rather than not putting things out. But it is going to be interesting to see what the specs are and how close it is to an A7S III. That is nuts. I do say that a lot, I know. Bill said, David, you always tell it like it is. I always trust your opinion and keep it up. Thanks, Bill. Says, man, Toner. Doesn't know how to use Sony cameras. Mark Gala debunked all of Toner's complaints. The Essential Light said Mark Gala is the most knowledgeable when it comes to Sony cameras. YouTube said, Michael, cameras losing value is completely fine. It means more people can get their hands on the high-end cameras. It really only affects you, I suppose, if you're constantly selling, Michael. I keep my cameras for a while. It's more, and this is why I discussed this last week too, it's more the people that... not the professional photographers. Professional photographers don't update their gear as much because we're working full time and we can't justify the expense. Like I said, you would be amazed how many professional photographers still use digital SLRs. There is an awful lot haven't even gone over to mirrorless. They're still using what they've got because remember, you've got to make your business work and you have to make enough money to live on and put food on your table. The people that are constantly changing their gear, unless you've got a lot of money, I can understand that. I'd do the same thing. But most of the people that tend to upgrade their gear constantly are the people that are working full-time and the photography is a hobby because they have the funds to be able to do that. That's why I said having a full-time photography business, I'm lucky Kerry works, but if we were relying on my business, we would have been screwed after this last 12 months, basically. I don't know what we would have done. And hopefully now, you know, we haven't got locked down again because it'll be relying on Kerry again. But if you're full-time and you're relying on making an income, you can't justify upgrading your gear all the time. Like I said, a lot will be still using digital SLRs. Hobbyists can afford it because they're working with other funds and they can afford it. And that's, you know, basically the way it is. Unless you are earning bucket loads of money and then it'll just pay itself off with work as well. If you can do that, that's fine. I tend to upgrade when I really have a need or if something comes out and it will really make a difference in my business. I probably, though, would have grabbed something new if we weren't in lockdown for the last year. I probably would have got the A1. I probably would have ordered it. What else have we got? YouTube, it's good for the majority of people and bad for the minority. Drain said, what insurance are you using in the US? You're talking about in the US. Greg, by the way, too, if you're an Australian, Greg, who's here now, Greg Thomas is great if you want to get camera insurance. I'm going to be getting mine through Greg when I do it in a few weeks, actually. So Greg is great if you'd like to contact Greg because Greg is actually an insurance broker and he does camera insurance. So if you are in Australia, highly recommend Greg. What else? Jaded Filmmaker says 100% deductible here, long-term rent. Yeah, rent is, I mean, you could do it that way too. But like I said, I don't want to risk anything at this stage, not until things pick up for me. Like I said, I talked to you about this a few weeks ago, and look what's happened. We're in lockdown again. It's just, not good. What else have we got? It's good for the majority of people and bad for the minority. Dwayne said, what are people using in the USA? Yeah, I've heard PPA is good in the USA. Who are you using, Michael, for insurance? It seems like Tony said he likes shooting at 1/200th for moving birds. I know, who would do that? You'd be up, well up. I don't shoot animals or flying birds, but surely you'd be up over 2,000th or something, wouldn't you? Like, that's really bizarre. I didn't understand that either. I think he wanted to put movement into the birds or something, but I've never heard of that before. Lens falling off was crap. It's the body. It's the same body as the A7R, etc., and there's no issue, just user error. See you guys. I'm going to watch the races and tennis. John said, I do think the lens release is an odd place on the A1. You're saying the release of it. Oops. Where are we? I just skipped down. Sorry if I missed your stuff, but in short, don't follow social media influencers to make purchasing decisions. I mean, you can have a look and think about it, but you've just got to hope that people will tell the truth. Look, I've had things where I've reviewed them before and they haven't, and I'm telling you the complete truth here, guys. I've actually done stuff which I've got it sent to me, I've reviewed it or done the video and it hasn't met my quality standards, and I've contacted the supplier and sent it back because I said if I'm posting this, I'm going to have to tell the truth. And so I just sent it back because I'm not going to tell you anything I use. I'm going to tell you completely how I find it. And that's what I think you would want someone to do. So some of the people, unfortunately, though, I mean, they are hired by the camera manufacturers that's producing them, and they're basically employees. This is what you've got to watch, that whenever you're listening to YouTubers that are hired by the company that is releasing it, you've got to be careful. This is why I love Tamron so much, because Tamron said to me, and I'm telling you the truth, Tamron said to me, David, just tell the truth. That's what you want. But if you expect to get cameras from some companies and you bag the camera, you are not going to get that camera again. And it's a fact. And that's just the way it is. And I mean, I'm quite happy with having that for me. If people don't want me to just put out a review that's the truth, I'm glad I don't get to review it. So I'll just wait until I can get someone that will lend me the camera. Greg is buying the A1, and I've asked Greg if I can lend his A1 with him when he gets it. So I'll be able to get the A1 with you and do a test and give you an honest opinion about how I find it. Raymond says, which stand is on your desk? Is that the Sony BT? Yes, it's the, I use that with the A1 actually. The ZV-1, I mean. So it's this one. I love it. It's great. Brilliant little piece of kit. Is it going to focus back on me now? The R5, 2 different card types, wishbone slots. Yeah, that is a bit of a silly thing as well. But I wouldn't even mind that as long as they could do redundancy. That's the main thing about that. I think I'm return my A7S3. Wow, wait until you see the specs first. You might regret doing that. Take off camera page and put up your comments. Oh, oops. Oops. Oh, let me just quit that. Sorry about that. Thanks for putting that in there. John said, is it confirmed the Alpha 1 can record video to both cards? Yes, they would be, John, for sure. There's no reason why they wouldn't have done that, because you can do it on the A7S3, and Sony have always allowed that with every camera that they've produced in the latest models. So yeah, I've got no doubt that would be on both cards for sure. Using the A1 in a thought for me was all-round super camera. Yep. If you want a camera that will do everything, that's certainly it. Anyone using LumaCube mini lights? They're on sale. I grabbed a couple. Yes, I did see that. I've got them. I love them, Dwayne. Yeah, they are. You get 15% off, I think, at the moment. YouTube said, David, if you type 1DX versus in the YouTube, you can find... let me try it and just see. How did you find that? File, new window. Let me see if I can get it. Paste and search. Oh, yeah, it is here. Oh, so this was the 1DX3. Okay, well, let me bring it up and show you the difference with this. Let me come to here. Let me make this a bit smaller. All right, you ready? I'll play you this and you'll see the difference. Let me go. Just got to turn the audio off. All right, so let's see. So unfortunately, like I said, it's in thing, but now you're going to see the difference of what's happening here in a minute. So the 1DX is 1/20th of a second. The A9 is 1/10th. Now you look at the difference, what they're going to show here. I've got to wait for it to come up. That was mechanical shutter. And then they're going to go to electronic shutter. So the first one was your mechanical shutter, and then this is going to be coming up, I think, with the thing. You can see, you watch, it'll eventually show. See the difference here? Look at the one on the left-hand side, how much rolling shutter you're getting on that, and that was the 1D Mark III, 1DX Mark III, I mean, which is their sports camera. So this shows you how fast that I thought it was the R5, but it's actually the 1DX Mark III, yeah, which would be, as good as it gets at this stage. I think the R5 has the same shutter as the 1DX. So it shows you on the right-hand side there the speed difference, and look at how the A9 II is stopping that without rolling shutter, that fan, whereas the 1DX Mark III was pretty ordinary when you got into electronic shutter. The mechanical shutter was fine. It was the electronic shutter that caused the problem. So yeah, thanks for that. I'll keep that because I'll keep that link in so people can watch it later on. Let me just see what else people are saying. Let me come back to here. What else have we got? Thanks for that, YouTube, too. I want to try the new Tamron 17-70. It's great. I love that lens. Really loved it. I hate sending that back. I sent it back on Monday. Tamron big, Dave small. Priorities mixed up. Hardware upgrade should come for the A7S III. What are you thinking, Ken? Or do you mean a firmware upgrade? Michael said maybe the FX3 looks so strong because it goes on a drone and take a fall from the sky. See, it could be based for that too, and that might be why it has all of those screws on it, Michael. It might be that it's definitely made for that drone. At least the FX3 has a flip-out screen. I know that's one thing, like I said, I really do love. Some people hate them. I love them. I really wouldn't want to lose that screen now that I'm using it. David, hello from San Antonio. Is it Texas? Update your Macs with the software update 1.2.1 for Big Sur. Important security. Yeah, I did. I actually did upgrade that. What else have we got? I lost trust in Tony after watching his review of the A7 IV titled 4 Things I Hate. Greg said, you would have to be very worried if you were a Nikon owner. I know. It's a shame, and I really do hope they come out of it. R&D pipeline and new releases seem very far between. Well, they just haven't got the funds at the moment, Greg. That's the problem. Like, if you're not earning money, you can't spend the R&D, and that's the problem. Raymond said, Tamron needs to pay Dave for the advertising space since he won't take down the graphic. I know. Sorry about that. What happened with Panasonic? I've been a fan, but now I'm jumping to Sony. Panasonic make great cameras, really good cameras. They're fantastic movie cameras and stuff. It's the focus that's the problem. The image itself are beautiful. Just a couple of years ago, everyone complained about cards bottlenecking buffers. Now we have cards so fast, 30 frames per second isn't the bottleneck. I know, it's incredible, isn't it? Really enjoy your live stream, David. I've got no friends that are into photography, so all my mates shut me up when I ramble about gear. Randall said the ZV-1 has a firmware update. Yes, I did update that the other day. It's up to, the ZV-1 has a version 2 firmware update now, so you can use it as a USB camera. Now, it's actually a true USB, so unlike the other Sony cameras that's out there, you don't need drivers or anything with this or special programs. You just plug it in and it works. It's the first one that they've done that has, there is a name for it and I can't remember. It's the first one that's been released with this updated USB, which just shows like you're actually just plugging in a webcam. It's brilliant. You just load it in and it just appears instantly on whatever you plug it into. It's fantastic and it was a really good update. TNC are great for checking content with the latest and greatest gear, but they suck as a reliable source for people who are looking for knowledge about their chosen system. Sometimes it's just clickbait, and that's the problem. I'd rather have reviewers point out potentially issues than just give a glowing review. Wow, those Canon colors. The Canon colors are terrific. They really are. You have to give it to Canon. The colors are really nice. 1DX has about the same readout speed. Yeah, it does. I think it's the same, basically the same sensor for that. So, yeah. The 8K video did surprise me a bit. I took it home and had no problem playing it or editing on my 2020 Mac Pro. I was totally stunned because it's 265 Kodak. Yeah, that's interesting. The Macs seem to do it pretty well. It's another issue with the R5. See, the codec Sony are using is much easier to play than what Canon use. The Canon one is awful. That's something that Canon definitely have to work on. Because the Canon is tough. The Sony Kodaks are good. That's for sure. Paul said, if you didn't own the A7S3 currently, would you wait for the A7? No, I'd still probably buy... Well, look, if I didn't own it now, I would wait to see what the FX3 has first. Because we're going to find out the 23rd is only a couple of weeks away. I would wait and see what the FX3 is first, and then I would make a decision. So I would definitely buy one or the other, Paul. I was always waiting for a camera that could do 4K 60, and the A7S3 was the first camera that could give me that. And I always wanted a camera with a fold-out, fully articulating screen, and it gave me that as well. It looks like the FX3 is going to be similar. So I would have to make a decision on that, but I'll let you know when the full specs are released because I'll do a whole video on it when it's released. But if you were in the market now, I would wait. Just wait and see. What else have we got? Sorry, I meant firmware update for the A7S3 to get S-Cinetone. Yeah, like I said, I think Sony will give it to us, but you can get it anyway. What I've been using is perfect to S-Cinetone, so with those settings. I talked about that last week. G'day, Panda. How are you, mate? What gelin? I used Panasonic for years. Yeah, I know Aaron loved his. What else have we got? Panda said, hi everyone, and who are you pleasing for Valentine's Day? No one, we're in lockdown. I'll just have to please Kerry at home. Oh, I shouldn't say that sort of thing, should I, Kerry? She might be listening. Kerry, if you're listening. Where is the Sony A7? Well, we're going to find out about that later on. Remember, I always told you that is going to come in the second half of the year. So I still think that's on the cards. Aaron said, yes, started with the GH2. Yeah, I had the GH5 and loved it. It was just the focus that put me off it. Ike said, it's amazing how one day you can completely be happy with your gear and getting great image, and as soon as something new and shiny shows up, your gear is no longer any good. I think it's lust. It's lust, Ike. Michael said, Miak, I have the 16-inch 2020 no chip. Yeah, if you've got the T2 chip or the latest Mac M1, I'm sure that would do the 8K footage no problem at all. I was waiting for an EVA 2 with new lens mount and improved autofocus. Had the most models since, Aaron said. Brent said, I currently have four GH5Ss. They're a great camera too. Greg said, 1DX has the same sensor as the R6, not the R5. Yeah. Drew, that's why I'm interested to try it, Greg, too, to see how it works. I'm really excited to try that camera out, just to give it a test from a Sony user's perspective. And like I said, I'll give you an honest truth. I'm not going to bag it. I think most of what it does is great, but I'll compare it to, say, the A9. Or perhaps we can do that compared to the A1 when you get it, Greg. The new Macs have special hardware for encoding. Yes, they do. It's built into the actual chip. Aaron said, wow. Why does the R5 use noise reduction from ISO 100 to 600? Not sure why they do that. Even the Sony A7S III could have, they really could do something about giving the option to turn the noise off or lower it. I wish that would come in firmware. I really do. But having said that, It's really interesting because I looked at some reviews the other day and they were talking about it, asking for sharpness. You don't really want a video camera to be too sharp. What do you see when you look at cinematic video in movie cinemas? They're never sharp. I guarantee 99% of the video that you see out there, they'll be putting those diffusion filters on the top. You see it every time because as soon as you see lights, you get the streaks that come across and you see the soft look around lights and stuff. They never use sharp footage for cinematic videos because it looks fake. It looks like camcorder stuff. It looks like you're shooting it with your phone. Still images, yes. But if you're looking at video, you don't want it to be super sharp. You really don't. A bride is not going to be happy if you show every single pimple on her face. Like I said, I've completely changed how I shoot now. I like to put the filters on and soften the image up. And in fact, nearly every setting that you see that people talk about if you're dealing with videographers tell you to reduce the sharpening to -7 in your settings. So you want to get rid of that sharpness because that sharpness is what makes it look awful. You don't want it to look like that. So, you know, I think if you're dealing with sharpness, I wouldn't worry about it too much. And that's why some people were saying the noise reduction on the A7S3 makes the image less sharp. And I think that's actually a benefit because I like the way the footage looks. What else? I don't need animal eye autofocus with my cameras with eye autofocus. I have Parkinson, what is it, Pekingese dogs or something, and the cameras focus on their eyes with no problem. They look like people with, with beards. I thought it's Parkinson's in or something. What else have we got? Greg said, no, R6 has a much slower readout speed than the 1DX. Brent said, my work has changed dramatically since the pandemic, so I'm re-gearing for the future. Yeah, well, like I said, we were the same here. Mike, they're just talking to each other, I think. Camera Roaming said, the A7S3 is amazing. Love it. Paid for itself with the first advert I shot. I know, I just adore that camera. I really do adore that camera. The Sony EA Fever adapter now allows for Sony users to use the A mount. I did see that the other day, and there was another adapter announced this morning on Sony Alpha Rumors. They showed it there where you can mount Nikon lenses onto the Sony cameras too. I don't think it was the latest ones, the Z series, but it was everything else, I think. Pema said, Ansel Abel, Steve McCurry, Annie and others, so many legendary photographers don't use the latest camera gear. Like I said, most full-time photographers can't, Pema. They just can't afford to do it. Michael Maestro said, they're talking to each other again. Drew said, why is Dave so cool and how is he so cool? Brent said, I think a mix of FX9, FS6 and some FX3 might be a great versatile group. Oh, now imagine that. I would love an FS6. I really would love that camera, actually. If I had the money, I'd buy one. Sony lens updates not compatible with Mac OS Big Sur. Yes, I know. You've got to have, because I've kept my old laptop in the the older software, Raymond. So I haven't updated everything to Big Sur because I knew that would be a problem. So luckily my laptop hasn't gone to Big Sur. It's Catalina, I think. Panda said, correct, David. Michael said, he's talking to Miak still. Are you using the new 35 1.4? I see lots of focus. No, it's my settings are wrong. I've set the camera wrong because I used it the other day with the manual focus lens that I was showing and I haven't got face detection on. So sorry, yeah, it's not set right. It's the same lens as ever, but it's breathing all over the place. Yeah, I can see it up there because it's just the focus is changing. It's no face detection on it. John said, Camera Conspiracies makes the same complaint about over-sharp video. He is a goof, but he has a point. Yeah, you don't want sharp footage on video. You don't want it at all. You want to soften that image off. Raymond said, no one is allowed to leave with giving thumbs up. Thanks, Raymond. Happy Valentine's Day. Fisheye, we were talking about that earlier. What else have we got? The Panda said, I like to use ND filters for portraits sometimes. So do I, Panda, actually. Max said, still considering the Fuji GFX 100S. Yeah, that's a great camera. Robert said, hi, David, do you use clarity in your stills? Sometimes, Robert, but not very often. No. Ike said, I agree sharpness is overrated. I have the Viltrox 85 1.8 for the Nikon Z system, and it's not as sharp as the Nikon S versions, but it's plenty sharp for portraits. I know you don't want... Look, this is an obsession. This is what makes me laugh. There's an obsession with sharpness, and this is because you've got pixel peepers and amateurs doing the shooting. Professionals do not want to have images that are that sharp, particularly if you're shooting females. Yes, if you've got a guy that's an old guy or whatever and he's got wrinkly faces, you want it to be sharp because you'd like to show the character in the face and everything else about that, right? You want that to be there. But if you're shooting a female, even me, look, I mean, I would hate to be photographed with something that's really sharp, show every flaw that I've got. But if you're shooting a female, if you're shooting a bride, the worst thing you can do is have a really incredibly sharp lens because it's going to show every single flaw on her skin. You don't want that. You want to soften it off. And like I said, if you want to see how you can make something look cinematic, and photography should be done the same way. I always look at the lighting that cinematographers do. It's always a beautiful, soft look. It's not what you call as being ridiculously soft, but they always use the filters that you put across, the diffusion filters. They're always using that on what they shoot. And that's one thing I can suggest that you do, guys. Get over this sharpness. If you're trying to sell your work, put something like a diffusion filter on, like the Tiffin or whatever. Put something like a diffusion filter on, use a 1/8, which doesn't give you much at all, but it just still softens the image down. And take the sharpening down in your camera. And then you can add it back later on if you want to, but you want a nice soft look because you don't want it to look like a camcorder or like it's shot from an iPhone. Yeah, landscape, John, I totally understand. I'm talking about portraits. Remember, I don't shoot much landscape stuff or wildlife and things like that. So for me, it's not an issue. Yes, if you're shooting landscapes, you want it to be as sharp as it can be. I agree, totally. And if you're shooting wildlife, again, you want to see every single hair and stuff. Yeah, completely understand that. Ike said, no, I don't want my skin to be shot on a super sharp lens. Terry, g'day, Terry. Sony is just making too many cameras. None of them are really focused and perfect. Just throwing them out and see if they get a bite. Bill said, I hate to be shot at 720. Aaron said, so agree about sharpening. And Ike said, if I was going to get my picture taken, I'd want someone to shoot me with the Sony 24-70 GM lens. That way I will be smooth skin. Yeah, because you're right, it's not as sharp as what those new cameras can be. Like, for instance, if you're using something like the 135 and you shoot that at f5, 6 or f8 and you focus dead on the skin, incredibly sharp. This is why I'm saying you've got to be careful, particularly, like I said, if you're shooting brides and females and things like that, or guys that don't want every wrinkle and whatever showing on their face. That's why I do like to use those diffusion filters now. The 1/8 I've found is beautiful. You can leave it on and hardly anyone ever knows, but it just gives you that little bit of softness in your image, which is beautiful. And it's just something that you could think about. Don't be, like I said, unless you're shooting landscape or wildlife, don't be obsessed with sharpness. In fact, think the opposite way. Vintage lenses, all these sort of things can give you beautiful looks because it gives you a different look and it's usually softer. You don't want it to look like it's out of focus, but you just don't need that incredible sharpness every time if you're shooting portraits. And that's about it. Ike said, take my picture with an 85 GM 1.4 at 1.4. So thanks so much, everyone. Look, have a great Valentine's Day. Tomorrow, like I said, I'm in lockdown for 5 days, so I'm going to be stuck at home anyway. I think I might go out and polish my car. Do something like that for the next few hours. Do something in that regards. Hopefully, we'll be out of this in the next 5 days, and then we can get back to do weddings again. Like I said, I've got 2 weeks. Please take us out of lockdown before then. Apart from that, everyone, stay tuned. I'll have some other reviews up in the coming days, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you all in the next video. Catch you guys. Great having a chat.